Hi, 8th grade. Welcome to math this year. Today we are going to get started with our first lesson. But before we do, I hope you had a chance to look at the syllabus. We're just going to look at it briefly right now, but I mean there's contact information and other good things that you might want to look at on your own time. Maybe print it out, put it in your binder. But today we're going to talk about supplies, okay? So for class, you're going to need a binder to put everything in, like a 3-ring binder. It needs to be at least 1 inch, maybe bigger. You're going to need some pencils. You're going to need binder paper. You're going to need your book. And we're going to be doing some graphing. Not early on, but so if you don't have any right now, put on your list to pick up. We'll start with binder paper. That'll be plenty. I don't want your work done in pen. I'm using pen, but that's just so that you can see better in this, online setup, but I would like for you guys to use pencil. So if you have paper, we're gonna go ahead and get started with your notes. If not, while I'm talking, you might wanna, if it's close to you, grab your paper and pull it out, get set up. If it's not close by, you should pause and come back, okay? Because we're gonna get started with notes. All right, so our notes today, we're going to start with Chapter 1, Lesson 1, that's 1.1, which is on rational. This is numbers, so I've written the # because that's numbers. It's not a hashtag. And this is on page 4. I'm on page 4 in your books. And we're going to go through all of the highlighted words. So if you want to keep your book close by and follow along or read along, if I'm going too fast, you can always pause this video, work at your own speed. But no, if I wrote it down in my notes, then you should write it down in your notes, okay? So the first word is rational numbers. Rational numbers, which is the title of our lesson today. So rational numbers are a number that can be written in the form of a fraction, A over B, okay? Where A, the numerator, is an integer, and B is not equal to 0. It cannot be 0 underneath. Okay, so I wrote some shorthand, so you don't want to copy my words or my symbols if they don't mean anything to you. Okay, if you're going to forget that this means number, write number. If you're going to forget this means is not equal to, not equal, then just write the words. Every rational number can be written as a decimal. And that's called, in your book, they call it a decimal expansion. We're going to do some examples with that. We're going to come back to it. Okay, next up is a terminating decimal. So I wrote terminating deci because a deci to me means decimal. If that's not what it means to you, you should write out the whole thing. But a terminating deci, or decimal, is when a decimal ends. Okay, so you take a fraction and, like 1/2, and you put it, to turn it into a decimal, you have to put it in the division, right? Where the top, the numerator goes inside and the denominator goes outside. You add some decimals. I hope it wasn't too long of the summer that this isn't ringing a bell. We're gonna do some examples. But in a terminating decimal, like 1/2, it will stop, right? When we do the work for 1/2, we get 0.5, okay? And it just ends. So that's a terminating decimal. The other type is a repeating decimal. And this is a decimal that repeats the same digit or group of digits forever. So it can have a pattern. Like maybe it's 0.123123123. Okay, so that's a repeating decimal. Okay, that's it for our written notes. Pause if you need more time. We're going to do some examples. Our first example is going to be turning the fraction into a decimal. Okay, so turn the fraction into a decimal. And we're going to pick, you know, a not so easy one. So 36 over 125. There is going to be an opportunity this year for us to use calculators and some other fun manipulatives, but this lesson is not it. So as tempted as you are to grab that calculator or look it up on your computer, don't, okay? Because you're only going to be cheating yourself. When you take the test or the quiz, it's going to be harder for you to come up with those answers if you don't practice them now, okay? And it's okay. We're not going to start with a ton of work. These problems are going to take a little bit of time, and it's worth it, okay? That I want you to do that, right? If you're not going to, if you're going to use the easy way, then maybe we'll do more work. But I'd rather you show all of your work and try these longhand, and then maybe we'll keep the homework light, okay? That's my goal. So 36 and 125. I don't know this answer, but I know that the numerator goes inside, so 36 goes inside, and the denominator goes outside, okay? So this will always, the bottom number always goes outside, the top number will always go inside, okay? And then because 125 is bigger than 36, that means the first thing I do is add a decimal. And I know you know how to do this. I also know it's been a while, okay? So once you add that decimal, then we can add as many zeros as we need. I'm going to throw up 2, and we might need more, okay? But I do know that 125, I know that that's going to be able to go into 360, 360, okay? 3 numbers, 3 numbers. 125, if I double it, 25 turns into 50, and this turns into 2, right? So 250. So since I know that 125 times 2 is 250, I'm gonna try 3. So I'm just gonna put my work over here. It doesn't matter where it goes. It needs to be on my page somewhere, and I definitely don't want to erase it, especially in this online environment where the only work I see is what you leave on the paper. So I want to show, and I want you to show everything. So 5 times 3 is 15, and I carry the 1. 2 times 3, 6 plus 1 is 7, and then 3. So 375 is 15 too big. So 3 is too big. I'm going to stick with the 2. Okay, 2, which we talked about was 250. And when I subtract, I'm left with 110. So I'm going to bring down this 0, and now the number is big enough for 125 to go into. It seems like it's going to be a big number, right? So much bigger than 375 and 250. So maybe I'll try, let's see, 125. Let's go times 8 is 40. 2 times 8, 16, and, carry the 2 is 10. So I got 1,000 even. So 1,000 when I subtract leaves me with 100, right? I know that it's not the next one, right? I know it's not 9 because if I add 125, that would go right here, and that would be too big here, right? 1, 1, 2, 5, it would be too big, so that's why I stayed with 8. So I ended up with 100, so now I'm going to add a 0 and bring it down, and I get 1,000 again, and I've done this math, right? I've done this math. It's right here. 125 times 8 is 1,000. And that leaves me with no remainder, nothing left over, right? We can't have remainders in decimals, but if there was something left over, that means we would have to keep going. So this is a terminating decimal. Our answer is 0.288. Okay, let's try another one. Example 2. Let's do 27 over 99. So again, the 27 is going to go inside and the 99 is going to go outside. 99 and 27, I'm going to need some extra because the small number's inside. So I know that 9 times 3 is 27, so 99 times 3, I think it's probably going to be too big, but I'm going to try it, okay? 99 times 3 as a starting point. So 27, and that's 29. So 297, that's too big. So 99 times 2 is 18, 198. So 2 is going to be my first number. And when I subtract and borrow, I'm left with 72. So I bring down a 0. 720. So 99 is about 100, right? And to get to 700, something in the sevens, I would multiply 100 times 7. So that's going to be my starting point. 99 times 7. We'll see how close we get. So 9 times 7 is 63. 9 times 7 is 63 plus 6 is 69. And if I was to add 99, that's going to be too big, okay? That's going to be too big. So 7 is my next number, 693. So then I subtract and borrow, and I'm left with 7 and 2. So I bring down a 0. And I have 270. Which we've done some math. I think we started with that. 270, right? Because we did times 3 was too big and times 2 was just right. So I have 198. And when I subtract and regroup, I get 72, which is definitely familiar. I see the pattern now. 720, so I'm going to use 7 and give me 693. So this is going to be a repeating decimal. And the answer, we stop after it repeats. It's going to be this, and we use what's called a repetend, a repeating bar over the part that repeats. So my answer is 0.27 with the repetend, okay? I'm gonna write myself a note. It's not important. Might be a bonus question at some point. It's called a repetend, that line. Okay. The last type of problem that you're going to see in your homework is example 3. Make sure I'm on there. Okay. Is changing from a decimal to a fraction. So let's say we have 1 0.42. And we need to turn it into a mixed number, right? So a fraction. It's a mixed number because there's a whole number with it. So we know that 1 is going to be part of our answer because we have 1 to begin with, right? So the whole number is going to stay there. We can just focus on the fraction part, okay? What's after the decimal. So if I count the decimal places, after the decimal, we start with tenths and then hundredths. And that's what we need to build our fraction. So we have 42 hundredths, which can be reduced, right? They might have a ton of numbers in common, but right off the bat, I know that 2 and 0 are both even. So I'm going to divide both the top and the bottom by 2. 42 cut in half. 2 goes into 4 2 times. It's even with none left over. Bring down the 2. 2 goes into that 1 time with none left over is 21. And 100 cut in half is 50. So if I think of 21 and the factors that go into it, 3 and 7 are its only factors. 3, 7, and then 1 and 21. But this can be divided by 3 or 7 to get smaller. So if I check 50, the denominator, does 3 or 7 go into 50? It does not. It's even, right? We could cut it in 2 and there might be more. But if 3 or 7 cannot go into both, it cannot be further reduced. So this becomes the fraction for my mixed number. It's completely simplified. Okay, so 1 and 42 hundredths turns into 1 and 21 50ths reduced. All right, guys, for homework. This is homework assignment number 1. We are going to be on page 6. And let's see. I would like for you to try numbers 7 through 21 odd. Okay? We're going to go over the answers. So let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, guys.